Yeah, who's in the fire? Got the Paleo Hebrew with me. Today's video, we're talking about how the Paleo Hebrew has preserved the ancient Hebrew. In other words, we can use the Paleo Hebrew to figure out and or confirm the original Hebrew. We're looking at both here on this screen. We're going to zoom in on here. Let's start way with these two. They're not in any order. I do want to be able to see you guys' comments, as you may have some questions or concerns about something. And as you know, we do talk about everything and anything on this show. So if you have questions about anything, if the Father, Abba, would allow us to get some answers by way of me, I'll share them. Allow us to. But we got a mic check. We got one person looking. It may be just me. But anyway, let me check to make sure everything is all right. Nope, we got 4 now. Just like that. All right, so now we're talking about the letters. That's as big as I can get this thing for some reason, but it's big enough. What we're talking about is the corruption of the letters, the Hebrew letters, what they are supposed to look like, and what they look like in Paleo Hebrew, what I'll call Hebrew. We're going to look at the transition. Now, first of all, let me write this on the board for my own edification, because I'm going to be the one to forget. Y'all going to remember and y'all going to tell me. There is 3 different languages that we are talking about here. There is the original language, which is Yahuwaditha. Yahuwaditha. You've heard of people call Yehudis? Well, that's the name of the people. That Yehudis is a slang word for Yahuwadayas. Yahuwadayas. That's who we are. We are the Yahuwadayas. And the language that we speak is Yahuwadatha. Yahuwadatha. And so the only difference is the last letter at the end. The one related to us ends in a yod. The one related to the language ends in a tau. And what we learn from that is that I'm not willing to say 100%, but it's going to be real difficult to get back to the covenant without the language, without the original language. And there are 3 parts to the language. The sound that it makes, the cha, the ha, the ra, the gaz, and all of that. And there's the meaning of the word, like the first letter means God, the last letter means covenant, and everything in between. And then you have what they actually look like. And what this video is about is what they look like, the pictographs. The pictographs, some could argue, are more important than the other 2 because it's what we see. Even a child can see a fence or a hook or a cross. And that's what we're looking here at the top of this screen here. So let's take it from right to left. We have the symbol of the covenant there. It would be the Thawa in Yahuwaditha. It would be the Tav in Jewish, and it would be the Tau in Paleo Hebrew. Like I said, we're talking about 3 different languages. 3 different languages. But we're not going to talk much about the Jewish in this thing, because the Jewish would be another transition, another corruption. And I am not willing to say that that transition is based on paleo. I don't know if it had anything to do with paleo. But anyway. So let's take the first. Well, we got the covenant. We got that sign of the cross. So now you're looking at the sign of the cross in the top left hand corner. And it should look strange, at least it does to me, because it's not what we're used to. Well, what I'm proposing in this video and in this series of videos is that we can look at the paleo to see what it was supposed to look like. And when we look at the paleo and we see an X, we know that an X at 90 degrees is a plus sign, not a T. A T is a cross. A cross is a T. At least, the way they draw it. But if you were to rotate it 90 degrees, if you rotate across 90 degrees, you don't get an X. But anyway, if you just watch the video again, and then it'll make sense, because you'll see that the rest of them are preserved. Now, this next picture is not quite right. This is the fence, but real easy. It's neither one of those images are correct for the fence. For the chawatha, I should call it a chawatha, for the sake of the children that are listening. The chawatha is simply rotated, and there's another corruption there as well, but both of these images are wrong. Okay, so let's go on to the third one on the screen, which is the hawa'a in Yehuaditha. It's the hawa'a in Hebrew. No, I'm sorry, y'all. Sorry, I'm going to comment section just so I can remember to delete that one. That's not the Hawaii, y'all. That's the Wawa. Anyway, we see nobody in the comment section. That's all right, though. Y'all don't want to talk about this. Y'all don't want to hear this. That's all right. 0 people looking. 0 people liking. Y'all didn't give any comments to the other thing either. Is it that y'all don't believe? All right, well, fine. We're going to prove it. First of all, you have to pull out the paleo so you have a reference point. So now look there at that letter in the middle of the screen, top middle of the screen. That is the hook. The wawa in the original language, it is the vav in Jewish, and it is in the shape of a hook. Now, we know it should always have been in the shape of a hook, because that's what its symbol is, a hook. But when you look at the picture below it, you see what it was corrupted to. And you see that there's no hook left in it at all. There's no way for you to hook something. But again, what I'm proposing and what I'm going to show in this video is that they simply took the original, which is the top with the hook, and simply opened it up and made it into a Y thing, a Y looking thing that has no ability to hook anything at all. So in other words, the first 3, they rotated the mark by 90 degrees, as well as the chawatha, and they took away the hooking part of the wawa. The wawa is no longer able to hook anything. All right, keeping along the top of the screen, again, going from right to left, we have the Quadesha. Now, look at the symbol right there. You're used to that Quadesha right there. Wish I had a way of pointing to it. But what that is, the top, or the second row from the top, the far right, what that is a picture of a sunrise or a sunset, or it could be a moonrise, or it could be a moonset. But if you look at the picture above it, it's actually the new moon day. That's new moon day. That's a very specific day. Then you say, what's the difference? Well, above it was actually pointing to the Kardashian, the Kardashian, or the holy month, the sacred month. But they've taken the moon part out of it and left only the sun part, and then draw a line through it, making it sunset, as if it's only about the sun and not timekeeping and when the Sabbath days are and that kind of thing, but more about sunsets and sunrises. Now, these aren't in any order. I was just trying to get them all on the bigger page that looks like that, if you want to get a screenshot of all of them. But anyway, let's look at the next one in the middle of the screen. That is the kapha. In the song, you hear them say kaf, ka, as if it makes two sounds, but it doesn't. It doesn't make the ka sound at all. It's just ka, and the pronunciation is the ka fa. So when you're singing a song, you don't say kaf ka, you say kaf, or you say ka fa. Anyway, messed that part up. But this video is not about what they sound like and what the proper name is. This video is what they look like. So in the middle of the screen, you have 4 fingers. Now hold up your hand in front of your face with your thumb facing towards you or whatever. And it don't matter. And you're looking at your 4 fingers right in front of your face. That's the top picture. In the middle of your screen, it's the picture of a palm. It's the palm of the hand or the foot. It could be the foot too, but it's a palm. Now, the corruption and what they did to it, take your other hand and squeeze your fingers together right there where they at the base of them. Matter of fact, no, that ain't. I'm sorry. That's what I used to think it was. We figured it out. I'm sorry. Gotta erase that. Let me go check the comments. How about every time I make a mistake, I go see if anybody made a comment. We got Chantel says, good day. Finally made it live. Good to have you here, Chantel. Great to have you. I'm glad you made it too. Go ahead and hit that like button for me. And be prepared to leave comments as we go. In this one, we're talking about language, but you can ask any question you want. You can talk about anything you want. We're just going to make it through all 22 of these letters. So let's keep it going. Now, the one in the middle, the top middle, is the kapha. And if you hold up and look at the palm of your hand, you're looking at the symbol of the kapha. And you have your 4 fingers sticking up, just like that picture has 4 fingers sticking up. Now, to get the to get the paleo below, you would have to have somebody to come and grab your index finger and your pinky finger and pull them until they're 90 degrees apart, like straight out, like you would have to spread those 2 fingers until they were 90 degrees. In other words, you'd have to completely break the hand all together. So that's what we're going to see in these corruptions, is the pattern of things. So far, we've seen that they turned the mark or shifted the mark. They've modified the fence. They've taken away the hook from the wawa. If I could start to pronounce these correctly. They've removed the moon from the Kardashian, and they've broken the hand of the kapha. And the next one that we see on the screen, the top left, is the shana. This is the symbol of the tooth. And one could argue that the corruption below is actually teeth. And I would listen to that argument, especially since I've said that before. But it could also be a modification of the tooth itself, like as if they are crushing it or moving it or something like that. I'm not sure about that one. As far as what y'all leave in the comment section. But you have to look at the paleo. What this is a digital thing here, so we can actually see exactly what's going on. And the next two are a bad example of what I'm talking about. Matter of fact, these two are a perfect example of what I'm talking about. Let me just make these smaller. Let me get I can't get them out of the way. Yeah, we'll do this one right here. This is a perfect example of what I'm talking about. When I say that they kept the original um, um, figure down to the dots. What this is a dot matrix. And you're seeing the letter Ra'asha on the top and the letter Resh on the bottom in the paleo. Now you notice that the paleo is just that little triangle delta looking thing with the straight line. But if you look above it, it's actually the nose and the mouth of the man. And so the corruption here is they've taken away the eyes, the head, and everything else, and only left us with the nose and a deformed mouth. Not sure what kind of mouth that is, but my point is that if you count the number of cells, the number of dots, you see that they matched perfectly. When it comes to the mouth of this figure, all they did was just shift the mouth part over and turn it into a straight line, and the rest of the head is gone. You can see that again in uh, the the Tezdikwa. Then the Tezdikwa, you see that it is a man on its side. And when you look at the paleo for the Tezdek, I think it's called, you see that the head is somehow modified. But if you count the dots that were originally in the head part of the man laying down, you'll see the exact number of dots that go downward in that dot matrix. You'll see that they kept it precisely. Same way with the waterfall below. If you keep the same number of dots, that's what you end up with. You end up with a waterfall. So again, notice the pattern here. That one at the bottom of the screen is the mayuma. The mem in Hebrew is the mayuma in, I have to keep saying it so I can pronounce it, so I can remember it. In Yahuwah Ditha is the Mayuma. In Hebrew, it's the Mem, and it's a waterfall. In It's a waterfall in Hebrew, but in the original language, Yahuwah Ditha, it was actually a stream, flowing water, like it was no end to it. But anyway, the point here is that it kept the same figure. All right, so let's come back up to these two. I said these were a bad example. You up at the top of the screen on the right, you have the Ioni. And you see you went from a eye-like thing with a pupil to a circle-like thing with no pupil. So basically they've put the eye out. The eye is not closed. When you look at the English, the eye is closed. But in the paleo, it's a hole. It's not like the eye is closed. No, we can still see that there's nothing in the eye. So the eye has been put out. And then the next letter, the one in the middle of the screen, is the paha. That's supposed to be the open mouth. You can actually rotate it and put it in the position of the ra'asha below. It's not only his mouth, but it's his esophagus as well. But you see that in the paleo, they've actually changed it to an ear. It's been changed from a mouth to an ear. And again, notice the symbology of what they're doing. They're changing speaking into hearing. Whereas we're supposed to have been talking, we're now listening. Well, it's the same way we're supposed to be looking. Now our eye has been put out, but we'll continue the pattern. Let's see, let's go over to this side. Let's get these right here. Now, the top right is the Hawa'a in Yahweh. That's the Hawa'a. In Hebrew, it's the het or the he. In Hebrew, it's also silent. But you have words like hallelujah. And how do you get, a silent H in hallelujah? But we'll notice the letters that they are making silent. That's also a pattern when we get into what they sound like. But again, this one is more about what they look like. And when you're looking at this, you see above it's a man with his hands above his head. If you look real close, what you'll actually see the Tezdikikwa just looking from a different orientation. In the Tezdikikwa, you're looking in the from the I don't know how to say the horizontal plane. Like if the person was on the operating table, we're looking at them eye level. But as far as the Hawa'a, now we're looking at them from above, but it's the same figure. Right. And so the corruption then is not that his hands are facing up and his head is facing up. And while he's praying with his head and his hands up, he's actually tilted to the side and leaning over. And we covered this in a previous video, so I don't have to hit these too hard. You have the Dalatha right beside it. Right there in the middle of the screen, you have the Dalatha. And when you get to the Paleo as well as the Greek, you see that everything is missing except the door and the lintel. And it's just like the one beside it. It's the Bayutha, which of course is the house. The Bayutha is a true house-like figure in the language Yahuwah, but in Hebrew, it's actually just only the door part and part of the other wall, is saying that the house has been destroyed and the door is missing. That's why those two symbols look very close to each other, except you have the other little part extending down, where that's showing you that a little small part of the rest of the house or the rest of the Bayathai still exists, along with the door and the lintel. And then in the Dalathai, only the door and the lintel is there. And so that's the corruption there, is that the man has made silent and the house is completely destroyed, leaving only the door. Now, right there in the middle of the screen, you have the two symbols Nayu Na and Samaka. Okay, I gotta make sure I get them two right. Y'all might have to check with me. Might have to go check the comment section. I may have made a mistake on that. We're gonna check it afterwards. What you have at the first, you have a seed, and if you were to Google, like I did, a germinating seed, what you will see at the top of the seed, the seedling, I should say, is the little like a little seedling head. It has a little thing on it. But when you get to the paleo, you see that part is removed. It does not have the little bud seeding, the little top part on, the most important part on it has been clipped off. And you also see that the stalk of the seedling has been broken, as if it's been snapped. The seedling has been broken. So and so there's a message in that. And then when you get to the Samaka, you see the corruption in it. Now, again, this is an error there. It's the paleo doesn't quite look like that. That's more along the line. So let me go over and check the comments. Like I said, every time I make an error or say something, I'm gonna go over and check the comment section. See which ones we got left. Oh, we still got Chantel. Oh, we got 11 people looking. Man, y'all mighty quiet on this. Why y'all so quiet on this? Is YouTube got y'all's tongue tied? Got y'all's keyboard wrapped up? Or y'all are really speechless when it comes to this stuff? Anyway, let's look down there at the bottom of the screen now at the Tawaba. The word in Yahweh that means good. Now in Hebrew is tet, the letter tet, and it means a basket or it means dirt. So, but we're talking about symbology here. What the Tawaba is actually is the celestial clock. You have a representation of the sun, the representation of the sun, the moon, the representation of the stars, and also the representation of the era there. And that's why you have four. But when you, and it's also representation of the feast days and such. But when you look at the letter tet, which means dirt, it's actually been rotated. Again, Tawaba means good, and implying that keeping the feast days makes you good. Well, if you rotate those feast days and miss those feast days, then it's going to just put you in the dirt or in a basket in the dirt. Anyway, so we see the corruption. Then the next to that, we see the Zana. The Zana is a plowshare. It's a tool that who was it? Abraham would have used to get those seeds in the ground when they was trying to eat them before they could grow or whatever. This is something that he would have used. You can still see a picture of this type if you put in an ancient plowshare. You can see it. Well, when you get to the paleo, you see that the plowshare has been broken. Now, it's when you get to the other languages, is it turned into a weapon? Now, is this a weapon in the paleo? I can't say it. I can see a weapon there necessarily as I can in the other languages. Like I said, it actually does look like a weapon, like in the Jewish language, or in the I don't. But anyway, the next one. You can see the corruption there. But the next corruption is the foot, right? And whether it's a foot of a man and whether it's a foot of a camel is not that important. I'm pretty sure it's not a camel, but because they got the word camel because the word is gamala. It's gamala. And they said they got camel out of gamel, but the word is gamala. But anyway, what's important is the orientation of this foot. So if the foot's horizontal to the floor, if the foot's flat on the floor and the leg is up, then you turn it upside down, then the foot is actually up high. So whereas the man, if he's laying in his bed, like we said, that's the foot. Let me show you where the rest of his body is at. Some say it's a camel, but it's not. There's his foot right there. I wish I could draw his foot on the edge of it. It will be flat on the floor. In the Tasada, you see his knees right there in the middle of his screen. You see his head over there. You see his knees over there, where his foot would be extended as if he's laying on his back. Again, that's the Hawa'a. That's the man laying on his back. You're looking in a position where you can't see his hands or you can't distinct his hands in the picture, but that's it. So now if you take his foot, which was otherwise would be on the bed, and now turn it upside down and it's in the air, he's no longer facing up. He's actually laying on his belly. So he's not on his back anymore. He's on his belly. And if it is a camel, then the camel is too on his back. His feet are in the air. But anyway, look at the next letter beside it. That is the yada. Now, the yada is like what your hand looks like when they ask you to extend your arm so you can get your blood pressure checked, or when they're getting ready to give you an IV or something, where your hand is laid out there on the table and your thumb is kind of facing up. And that's the yada. Well, if you rotate your hand 90 degrees with your hand facing down, that's the position of the paleo. That's what they did to the paleo. Now, that position is only good for taking stuff. Picking up this and picking up that. But the other one is good for a lot of stuff. Administration. You can give, you can take, you can do anything. You can help, you can hurt anything, because when the palm. But the other one facing down, that's just mainly extraction. And you'll also notice that the arm has been cut off. and saying that the arm has been severed. But anyway, that's that corruption. Now, what's left? Is that it? No, there's the last one. Which is the first one. And when you get to this one, then you realize what they actually had in mind, what they was really doing. There again is all of them. If you want to get a screenshot, let me go check the comments before we get into this one. Might make me actually cry. Yes. Who we got? Royal Prince of the Most High Yah. Royal Princes of the Most High Yah says, Shalom, coach and family, and in the fight family, peace, love, and light. Appreciate you. Appreciate your comments. Appreciate you guys stopping by. You guys have been hearing from or hearing about the book that we're working on. It is a slow process, but there is a way you guys can help with it. If you want to, you can actually get in the editing process where we go through and start finding these few mistakes. If you're interested, let me know somehow. Because we got a lot going on. That's really only one part of it. There's several parts. This has to go with it, and we're down to the editing. And the thing about the editing, the more you edit, the more you'll actually learn, because you're looking for mistakes, and so you'll as you're looking for errors, you're gonna find truth. But anyway, let's look at this last letter here. This is the letter Allah. Its symbol is a bull, but its representation is God. It means God. It means Him straight up, and that's in the language Yahweh. Now, somebody who speaks Hebrew would say, no, it means strength, or it means power, or something like that. And you notice that the letter is also different. And you say, well, in these, we've seen all of these corruptions in here. So what are they actually doing to the head? Okay. Now, I'm going to take this real slow. First of all, know that this symbol is the symbol of Kimmel. Up in the sky, we hear about that in Job chapter 9, talks about Kimmel and Kizu. This is the symbol of Kimmel. This is where our gnosis comes from. This is where our consciousness comes from, awareness, enlightenment, all things good. Well, not all things good, because you also have Kizu, which is responsible for a lot of the three-dimensional stuff, whereas Kimmel is responsible for all of the five-dimensional stuff. But anyway, so that's what the symbol is about. This whole symbol with the Bayatha and the man on his back praying, the Chawatha, the support systems, and all of that is a story of our Father leading us from Him through providing all the way back to the covenant, back to Him. And so that's what it is. It's not necessarily a bull, as it is pointing to a particular star constellation, one that happens to be doing its thing when we're doing our thing on feast days, like the feast of Shana Wakaha. But anyway, now it is the symbol of a bull. It is just, and so think of the orientation of the bull. So what it is the side profile of a bull. The bull is looking straight ahead as a side profile, and you're looking at the side of it. That's why you're seeing his horns are a little bit cocked, because he may be turning towards you just a little bit, but it's still looking at the side profile of it. Well, that's in the language Yahweh. Now, in Hebrew, you're looking at a top-down view of the same head. They've taken the head and have laid it chin down on the ground. That's why its horns are now straight, parallel to each other. They're symmetric, because you're looking straight down at the head of it. And then the line that goes across the upper part of the triangle, that's actually them cutting off the nose part of the bull as it's being slaughtered. And so, in other words, the first corruption in the paleo was to slaughter the bull. And when you look in the Jewish, it's an X, or his head is completely cracked. And when you look in the English, they turned his head upside down and drove his horns into the ground. And like I said, that's what they're doing to the entire language. So whether you got none out of it or not, I don't care. You ain't gotta hit the like button. You ain't gotta leave no comment. Do what you do. You don't believe it's important? Don't share it. You don't believe it's important? Don't hit the like button. You don't believe this is important? Don't leave a comment. You don't believe this is important? Don't return to the pure language. But if you understand how I understand, you may not make it back to the covenant. I'm not going to go back in there and look for no more comments. I'm going to leave it at that. Hope you got something out of it. Shalom.